All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's get this show going. Yeah, Tuesday morning, brand new week. We got a brand new range. Bitcoin testing some major price levels. We're going to discuss that in this stream. If you're new, welcome. If not, welcome back. First off and foremost, Bitcoin is actually trying to test a little bit of intraday support here. Right now, it's trying to break down below the VWAP. So basically, it's building a box or a range of support here under the weekly VWAP. And your weekly open is down here. So basically, this would be the better level to wait for. However, since we're doing this right here, right now, we're going to see if Bitcoin takes out the low, this current low right here, and trends, we're going to leave it be until it gets down to the weekly open, and then we'll see what happens down there. However, if Bitcoin cannot trend below this price, we're going to be a buyer in today's stream. Obviously, things are looking a little bit better for Bitcoin, but there is a massive price up here. It is literally MicroStrategy's cost basis. And the reason that price is so important, because if we get up to it and then reject, then essentially that's the market saying, yeah, oh, so close, and then leaving the area, which basically would tell us that the squeeze is potentially not going to happen. What we want to see, obviously, is a short squeeze. We want to see the buyers push well above Strategy's average, because Strategy essentially single-handedly stopped this bear market. Their stock right now trades almost like 1-for-1 with Bitcoin. It's literally insane. And if other people are accumulating massive positions, then in theory, this thing should moon, and it should start mooning pretty damn soon. But obviously, if it stays under that price, then the market wants to squeeze out Saylor's position. That's the way we're going to look at it anyways. But today, we just have to be bullish. I don't know how you approach price, but the way we want to approach it is we want to objectively analyze the weekly trend. Near term weekly trend is currently up. You are trending higher. It does appear as if though you are trying to break support, and you did get a rejection yesterday at that price. So you could hypothetically be a seller here if you wanted to be. It is a good place to look, because if you're trading above Strategy's average cost basis, then you're going up to test the February high. So there's no point in holding a short. However, if you reject that price, you could hold a short if you're anticipating the macro trend on Bitcoin being a bear flag. We're going to discuss all of that. We're going to discuss every bit of it, but we are watching what happens here. We got 20 minutes until the bell opens. First, I think it's important that we discuss the dollar. The dollar came up to Q4 2025's high, liquidated that, closed Friday, and the weekly candle above that liquidation point opened Sunday evening, and has been literally a one-sided market away from that area. Looks like the bears have taken back over control of the dollar. The macro, in terms of data, like if you were a macro analyst working on some hedge firm, you would have a bearish bias here. The macro is still situated for bearish bias dollar positions, but on this, we like to treat price as king. We take a no BS price as king. If it's moving in the opposite direction of the macro, then that's typically the way we want to look, at least on the near term, until price lets us know that it does want to respect the macro. But anyways, liquidated that August swing high. The August swing high had already been liquidated, but you were unable to close any days above that price. So yeah, that's where we currently are rejecting right now. In terms of what we did last week and what we've done so far this week, this would still be considered just a pullback. So your near-term trend is clearly to the upside here, as your weekly 21 is down here. Price bounced off of it last week and broke out above the descending trend line. You closed a weekly candle and a daily candle above resistance. So until you take out this candle's low, the dollar is kind of poised for an upside move. But Early this week, you're pulling back. So if the dollar doesn't start to find some support today, this will start to look like a bull trap. And then the macro positioning for dollar bears will be back on. So that's what we're dealing with right now on the DXY. So the macro tone is still risk on. Even though we got a lower print with NFP and all that, it's still risk on. It's still risk on. And we're getting several interest rate decisions this week. You're getting a Canada interest rate decision, a BOJ interest rate decision, ECB interest rate decision, FOMC, and finally Great Britain. So the pound, like literally all the majors are having an interest rate decision this week. However, all of them are expected to be not changed. So interest rates wherever they are now, that's what is anticipated, or at least being priced in as going to stay the same by the end of the week. So if something happens, then if you get a random cut or a random hike that the market isn't pricing in, then that could cause some moves. Tomorrow is when the FOMC interest rate decision will be, along with the BOJ, and I think the Canadian, the BOC, Bank of Canada, will also be doing it as well. A lot of data coming out tomorrow, but it's not really anticipated to have a massive market move here. S&P 500 currently broke down. You did close 2 days last week under the December low. So if the December low holds as resistance, which is it today? I don't believe it is. Yeah, it looks like you're going to be gapping up right at it or a little bit above it today. So we'll see what it does. But if the December low does act as resistance, then we would have downside targets of the November low, which is down here at 65.21. Our weekly expected range lows for this week come in at 64.19, and the top side of the range comes in at 68.45. A massive range this week. Volatility closed up high last week. Volatility is currently sitting at 22.49. It's been coming off literally. It came off yesterday, and today you are currently trading under yesterday's low. So it does look like the VIX does want to continue to head lower. That is also more of a risk on look. Because the dollar is pulling back, that caused gold and silver both to get a pop. Down here, after making fresh lows, these are fresh lows here. You made those lows and then bounced. So we don't know if silver and gold want to be bullish today or whatever. We'll see. And then finally, yesterday, I took a short on Nvidia Wednesday of last week. I've been holding that short because it tested a monthly. Here, let's get back down to the main screen because that's where I have all the relevant levels drawn up. There you go. You can see February is open. That's where I wanted to look for shorts last week. If we retested that area and failed, that wick is right here. We traded up into February's open. This is where we put on the short position. We've been holding that short position until yesterday, because yesterday, randomly at 3:05 p.m., we got a God candle here that stopped out those trades. Traded well up above the February open, then showed slight signs of rejection after that. Slight. Yeah. Brand new day high, brand new day low. All of that took place in about 20 minutes. And then today you're gapping up. I didn't like the price action Nvidia was showing me yesterday, as it gapped back above the weekly 21 exponential. Going out to the major time frames here on the weekly, you can see that we did put in a bearish engulfing weekly candle at the year high. So this is typically a decent signal to look for downside positioning. Then you had not one, but two weekly candles. Both of them traded well above the weekly 21 exponential, and both of them had closed under. So you have 3 weeks here of sell side pressure. So the fact that we opened with a gap up yesterday back above this level, that kind of told me that I was most likely going to be stopped out. And I was stopped out yesterday. So I'm not really interested in putting on that short trade again, as if you do liquidate this area and then just go right back to it, it seems like we're looking for a bullish breakout. It's still bearish on the year, as your yearly opening range is sitting right here. But as long as Nvidia if it isn't rejecting February's open, I don't want to be short anyway, because it isn't trending. It is very, very sideways. Whenever a market is very sideways like this, the trend usually doesn't work, right? The trending trade. And if you are taking positions that are directionally biased, if you are looking for longs or you are looking for shorts only, those trades do not work out because you're going to get chopped up most likely. So the best trades to take in scenarios like this are selling puts and calls out of the money, or just whatever, right? Any other position that basically isn't going to be a directionally biased or a delta positive trade. So yeah, looks like it wants to break out. The bears, why are they slacking off? That's the question I have to ask myself. If the bears wanted to, I mean, if they really, really wanted to, they could break this down. They've had more than enough time to break it down if they wanted to break it down. I think the downside trade is so crowded that price can't do anything but refuse to go lower. Similar to what happened on the dollar. It was a very crowded short trade, and then the last several weeks, the dollar has went straight up. So I kind of feel like we're getting ready to see something like that in the risk markets. I obviously will be wrong if it rejects February's open and continues to go lower. Just don't anticipate a trending move out of that. Just look to scalp it. If you get into a short and it moves in your direction, take profits quickly. This way, when it comes back to your entry and stops you out, you make money. That's the best way to trade a range-bound market. Looking for the large breakdown or large breakout, not so good. But we'll see what happens. I do not like the short anymore because of what price is doing. And then obviously, let's go take a look at Bitcoin real quick so we can get this larger time frame thing going here. All right. So basically what I'm talking about is as a bear flag, Bitcoin is. So if you fib this year's range, the whole entire swing high to swing low, it's a down year. You're under the yearly open. That means you're down. So you fib from the high to the low. Bitcoin is currently testing the 382 Fibonacci retracement of your yearly range. Obviously, there is also a bear flag here. Now, the last bear flag that Bitcoin put in back in November, December, it broke out above right into that price and then stopped going higher. And that's where Bitcoin is pulled back from. So hypothetically speaking, as long as you're trading under the trend line, you can look for shorts, or as long as you're trading under last week's high, you can look for shorts, right? So that's kind of what we have going on here this morning. However, it is a risk on, more risk on than risk off. When it comes to data, I know there are things going on in the world. You've literally got Israel, US, Iran war happening. That's 20% of the world's oil production over there. So literally things are not looking great to be bullish in risk markets. But unfortunately, the data is the data. We have to go by what the data is, especially if price is refusing to be bearish for so long when it's been perfectly fine for bearish trade. So we'll see what happens. I want to see if the dollar finds support this morning. So I kind of am on the sidelines here. Yesterday we tried to get long Fartcoin twice. We got stopped out both times, and then finally we took that last entry down here as it was building in support right under that weekly VWAP. So we ended up buying it with the same rules in mind. If it breaks down and starts to trend under the low, then we're going to leave it alone because you're probably going back towards the low of day, and we don't want to be in the long. So, it was almost a losing day, but finally Fartcoin tore off to the upside around 4 or 5 o'clock. That trade ended up working out great. Took profits yesterday. Stop is set to break even. Going to leave that small piece on. Also holding a silver still from last week. A silver short from last week. Like you can see, it is kind of rejecting, like it doesn't want to go higher. So we'll see if gold and silver are done with their early week pullback. Since the near-term trend is lower, I mean, very near term, like last week and the week prior to that. You can see here, bearish, and then you continued lower. You didn't break out, but you did continue lower, and you did make that lower low this week. So your trend is, the near term 3-week trend is heading lower. So if gold and silver can find resistance in this area, then I would look to add back into that short position. So far, the week is going just fine. And the last thing that I'm looking at for potential trades on is going to be down here on Aussie dollar. The reason is because Aussie has been absolutely insanely bullish. Here, let me pull it out to the daily so you can see. Because of gold and silver. Gold and silver affect this currency a lot. So they were very gold and silver was bullish. Aussie dollar has been extremely bullish. Now, Aussie does not make up the DXY basket. So just because you have dollar strength, that doesn't necessarily mean you will see Aussie weakness. However, if we do get dollar strength and gold weakness, then I would love to be short Aussie dollar. But as you can currently see, the trend is very strong to the upside. It's refusing to break out and break down for a while here. So there isn't really a trend, but if you are looking at it from bottom left to top right, it is trending in the upward direction. So bears have had a little bit of difficulties getting downside continuation on this. It is currently testing daily supply. It's literally above every level that I would want to see it above if it was going to be a downside short. However, because it's testing the March open as a retest, I have to take this as a short. I would much rather take it as a short at 9:30 instead of taking it right now at 9:23, because it's really strong right now, and most likely it's going to make a fresh day high at the bell. So I'm going to wait for the bell, see if it does make a fresh day high, and then if it starts to slow its roll a little bit, then I'll put on a short. As long as it's closing 5-minute candles higher, like every candle is making a higher high and closing higher, I will not put that short on. So basically all I want to see is it stop moving up right here, maybe at the bell, liquidate the high, and then start to back off, and then start putting in lower closes and lower lows. If I can get in, I will get in, and then we'll see what happens. We're going to need dollar strength and gold weakness for this short to work out. In terms of a short, I do not love it. We have to go look at it on FXCM because Forex.com does not give us data, volume data, and we need to see volume data to see where, at least where the deltas are, the strength. And as you can see here, it is very strong and trending higher today. But it's not as strong as it was yesterday. So that's a good sign. I hate shorting a bullish asset when it's trending up. I despise it actually, because the trades don't seem to work out that often. But it is an objective level being the March open. And if we are going to see March close as a down candle for the month, then this is where we got to put that trade on. And then secondarily, let's just go ahead and take a look at session volume profile real quick, just so I can get an idea as to where that POC is. And the POC, of course, is down on the daily lows. That's another thing that I do not like about looking for shorts on this. We're not seeing any heavy volumes come in up here at the March open, so it does not appear that other traders are looking for shorts here on Aussie dollar up here. All right, so with that, we'll see what it does at the bell. I can still take a short just because it's up a lot and all that. It doesn't necessarily mean that I would anticipate that continuing. But if the dollar is going back into a bearish move, then this will just continue up. So we might need to stop on this. We're okay. We definitely don't want to miss it. So there's that. If it is going to be a short, we do want to catch it. Because like I said, if you have a deeper correction on gold, that will put weakness on Aussie. And then if dollar is strong, that could also put more weakness on Aussie. I think it could ultimately be a better trade. But unfortunately, the macro supports bullish gold, bullish silver, bullish Bitcoin, bullish stocks, and bearish dollar, bearish bonds. So we're kind of in a tough spot here. So we'll see what happens at the bell. Hopefully everybody's having a good week so far. I am already long Bitcoin, so I could potentially eat a stop here early, as we're most likely going to make a new low here at the bell. The bears do seem to have pressure on it, and if I was bearish on Bitcoin, this is where I would have been looking for the short trade. So I can't chase it down here, but if it does act like it wants to stop going higher, then maybe I will put on a short. I don't like the short on anything else that I've looked at. Not down here. Up here, I would be more interested in a short. Same with Bonk. Bonk has been weaker than Fartcoin, and Pingu is already pulled back massively, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, in order for me to get in on the short, it would have had to been up in here. I don't have a short setup on Bitcoin today, unfortunately. But you can short it if you can put on a position here and you can get your stop above the high of day. If you're looking for a longer term breakdown, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're okay with setting in that pain as you get, obviously you'll be sitting in drawdown if Bitcoin pulls back to the high of day. That's all I'm talking about. But for the scalp, we've already missed it, most likely. So we'll see what happens here. The only position I can take is a long. That's all I can do with Bitcoin here. I hate that idea into resistance, but it is the only trade I can take. So if I am going to trade Bitcoin, it has to be a long. And like I said, I don't love it. I don't love the structure. I don't like what it's doing here. It's currently threatening a low side break. So I can get long at the bottom of the range here, but if it's under this level, I can't really. Not until it retests the week open. Current weekly structure is bullish. This is your weekly open right here. So let me write that in so that way you can see what that level is and know what it is. Yeah, we'll see what happens today. Big level of resistance. I liked it higher if it could just break above the weekly swing high and give us a higher high. It did that yesterday. That's the reason I was looking for longs yesterday. Today, a little bit different market structure here. Not so much. It's just a little bit different. As this is the exact same setup right here that we took on Fartcoin yesterday. That worked. It worked out tremendously well. Made a couple $100. All right. 1 minute to the bell. We'll see what it does here. I definitely need to get my shorts ready for Aussie dollar. And then I need to be ready to close the Bitcoin longs. Current trades. All right, there's the bell. Let's see if Aussie dollar runs back up to the high. I'm going to leave it on Bitcoin just to see if it makes, because we're looking for basically the same thing here. We're looking for the New York session to open, run the lows, and then bounce. And similar on Aussie dollar, we're looking for the market to open, run above the highs, and then reject. If Aussie dollar doesn't run above the high, then I want to have a short on Aussie dollar. So we'll see what happens here in the first 10-15 minutes of the bell. Nvidia could be rejecting resistance here, so I might be willing to put that short back on. I don't want to chase it, so I would almost have to put it on right this second. I don't love the idea of it because this was a stop run here. But I'm going to be mad if I miss the Nvidia short, if it does ultimately work out in the future and I'm not short. I do still have that put on, but that put is just that. It's just a long term. It's not the best trade. I mean, obviously you would need a massive breakdown for that put to pay out. So I would love to be short from February's open as long as price is consistently trading under that level. But the positions that I'm currently in, like I said, a Bitcoin long, I'm in an oil short, I'm in a Fartcoin long, and a silver short. I'm kind of, I got it mixed up a little bit there, but it's kind of against what everything is doing here this morning. Basically, this is why I don't take longs at the VWAPs or at moving averages, because price does tend to push deeper than the average to get people thinking that it is breaking down. And then generally, if it builds in a support under, then I can focus on that support holding. So that's why I got long this morning. Similar thing. I didn't get long here. I waited for it to push down into the lows, set lows. This is a 30-minute chart. So this candle traded for a full 30 minutes without breaking that low. So that's the candle that I jumped on the long with right here. As long as you're trading above this, I want to be long. I hate being long because, like I said, we're in the resistance. So there's not any great trading setups here this morning. However, if you fail to close higher 30-minute candles above 74,416, then short sellers are going to be looking to put those trades on there. I could short as low as 74,471 if it does fail there. It's the current 8-hour swing high. It's also the current 12-hour swing high. So yeah, that's where I'd want to put that trade on if I was looking for a short side setup. So essentially, I just want to see price trade up to here and then fail to go higher. If that happens, then one could put on a short there. Because you do already have the breakdown, it's just I don't love the idea of the short. If it was more of a risk off look, if dollar was breaking out and continuing to be bullish, then I would like the short idea better on Bitcoin. Because the dollar is pulling back so brutally. Like, I don't know if you were paying attention to the market yesterday, which I'm sure most of you were. I mean, hell, this is what we do, right? So of course you were. It was a very, very momentous move to the downside. It wasn't just a down move. It was a strong down move. It was literally one-sided pretty much all day. And then for today, you just kind of go up, liquidate these swings, and then immediately roll back over. This feels more like this was a trap and those dollar bears piled in, is what it feels like. But unfortunately, because it did break out, we have to give the respect to the bulls for now. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Good morning. Great meme this morning. Heath almost woke up the toddler. Good afternoon, Trade Talkers. User 4737 removed pants. Good job. Good morning, friends. Hey, Heath, have you seen Race recently? No, I have not looked at Race in a long time. Let's go look at it real quick. This is Ferrari, for anybody that doesn't know. It's getting beat up pretty badly. Yeah, I mean, you're trading under the weekly 200 exponential. I don't know that you would be under the 200 simple, though. Yeah, you're under the 200 simple. I mean, people are going to be watching this to see if it holds as support. If you start to break down and trend under 327, I would not be interested in this at all. But it is at support. I mean, if you think it's a good long-term buy and hold, maybe something like that. You already bounced massively off of oversold here. You're printing bullish divergence. The stock does look good long term. It does look like a good long uptrending stock. So, I mean, that's kind of what you have, right? It's just, it's pretty overbought or oversold down here. So obviously I'm very interested to see what Bitcoin does this week. I would love to see it break out and start squeezing shorts. But if it wants to trend lower, if it does want to resume a bear flag breakdown, then I am more than okay with opening brand new shorts. I haven't put it on yet, but we'll see what it does. This would have been actually the best place to put it on, most likely. And I didn't have a chance to put it on that quick. I need to see more price action up here. Show me at least 15-20 minutes of rejection. This right here is just going to be opening market or the New York session open jitters. I want to see actual reversal signals start to build up. And then for the US oil short, I basically, yesterday it was very weak. Okay, so if you go look at US oil on the weekly time frame, this is going to be your weekly open. Clearly the trend is down on the week open. Go back to the 30-minute here. You were making lower highs and lower lows. Obviously, it's only been one day. This is day number 2, but you're well under the weekly open. You're well under the VWAP, the volume weighted average price, which suggests that the selling pressure is heavier than the buying pressure if price is trending under it. It did briefly get above it here for a little while this morning, but same scenario as on Bitcoin and Farcoin yesterday. If it builds in a box just above the average and then refuses to trend, right? That's the key. If it refuses to trend, then I want to trade this in the direction of the near-term trend. So at any point, if it would have broke out above this white line and started to trend, then I would know I am wrong. That the buyers did in fact come in here and they did in fact pick up resistance. So I am a seller right there on oil. If it breaks back under, then I'm on the side of the trend. So we'll see what it does. On weeks, it's still a brand new asset in terms of the perpetual futures contract. So I can only trade 40 contracts. It's a very small position size. It could add up to a decent trade if it does in fact break down, or at least pull back some. I don't have a massive short side bias. Oil is a very volatile asset class right now, and they do not have the Strait of Hormuz opened back up yet. I think when that occurs and then all of the surrounding countries get production back up to normal, I do believe oil prices will fall. I don't know how far they will fall, but there are some macro analysts saying this is going to have potentially like months worth of destruction to oil prices. This isn't going to be quick. This isn't going to be just a, few day flash in the pan and then go back to where it came from. Most likely it's going to be in price discovery and it's going to be volatile for the next couple of months. If you are in that camp, just be careful. Just make sure you're mitigating your risk, as that's all you can do as a trader anyway. You're not going to be able to accurately predict what price will do, so there's no point in trying to do that. But we'll see what these things do here. So on silver, I guess that 4-hour resistance would be the area that I would need to put that trade on. It's a bullish engulfing. You've got a higher high today, higher lows this morning to yesterday, right? So this weekly range is currently up. Moving average is still very bearish in terms of structure. You do have a bearish cross there. So as long as you're under last week's open, which is here, then I'm okay with holding shorts or putting new shorts on. Right? Putting new shorts on. Because I did take profits on it. I don't like how the POC is in the middle of the range. I do like cumulative volume deltas though. So it would be nice to see price reject 4-hour res. It's not my favorite level to watch. Let's kill the moving averages. We don't need them on anything lower than a 4-hour chart. The 30-minute looks okay. You did not close a higher 30-minute candle. So 81.06 is that price that I would love to see the sellers protect. This is an old daily support. It's irrelevant. I'm going to move this over to yesterday's high, just so I can kind of keep an eye on it. We got 17 minutes on this close. I wish this POC was higher on the day range. That would look a little bit better for the short anyway. Because it's making higher lows, looking for the short is counter near-term trend. But we could have just set the weekly high, right? We could have set the weekly high. So if this is going to be the weekly high, we now want to see price start to rotate and head in the opposite direction. If the weekly low is in already down here, then prices won't reject. It'll make fresh higher highs and probably continue. So I don't want to destroy my cost basis on the short if that's going to take place. I'm trying to give it some room, if you will. Here is the current trades that I'm in and the open positions and the P&L that I've made so far this week. So you can see, took profits on the silver short, made $660. Took profits on the Farcoin short yesterday, made $663. Still have unrealized P&L on both of those trades, adding up to around $400. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Position sizing is really, really low at this point because the positions were undersized to begin with. Yeah, it is what it is. XTI, that's that oil short. It's a new asset as a perpetual swap. But generally speaking, when I put a trade on, I want my entry to look like my entry cut the candle bodies off, right? That's generally the way I want to look for entries. I want to look for those entries at the highest probable area for reversal. So right now it's looking pretty good. So here's the thing. If oil continues to roll over and continues to put in lower lows and lower highs, I think the dollar will be weak. I think the dollar will revert back to the more macro trend. Unfortunately, the dollar isn't trending since it fell back under Q4 2025's high. It's no longer trending. It's only trending above this price. If it's not above this price, you're in an 8-month range here. An 8-month range. So very, very choppy dollar. Bad dollar. Bad dollar. It's not making it easy to get in a more macro position because it literally refused to do a macro move. We thought we were going to get the breakdown here, and nope. We're right back up to the top of the range. So because of this last move, because we refused to break down at since this trend line goes all the way back to 2011. So it is a macro trend line. Macro trend line, macro level. But because it refused to break down, that tells me that it's either too crowded or it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't want to go lower. It wanted to go back and test the top end of the range, and we just did that last week. So at the very near term, until it gets back under like the trend line or something, I still have to treat this as the bulls have control of the asset. Just not yesterday and not today yet, but it could be tomorrow when they regain that control. But I think you would need to see bullish oil prices for that to happen. I think that the dollar rallied because of oil. I mean, they're not one for one. If you look at oil, you just started seeing that thing rally. Well, not fair. Not true. It actually started rallying about the same time. This is when the oil started to rally. Right here. Now, obviously, this month has been extremely volatile. Like one of the biggest months of all time. I've never seen oil do this. Like, never. This was insanity. So obviously it's just super volatile, but the breakout already started here in January. So the last 3 months you've been bullish on oil, right? If you look at the dollar on the month, the last 2 months you've been bullish on the dollar. So it almost feels as if the oil prices is giving dollar that lift. So we'll see what it does. We'll see what happens. I can't tell you what's going to happen, but we can react to what happens. We can definitely do that. All right, so Bitcoin kind of refusing to go lower here. You can see how it literally went up to the level I said that's where you want to put shorts on at. I missed it. I wasn't looking at it. Hopefully you were, and hopefully you were able to jump on there. If the short trade is going to make money today, then you should be fine with an entry there. That's about all I can say about that. If it's going to be the right direction for the market today, you should be fine with that entry. I mean, it's a beautiful entry. If the dollar's going to rally today, then you're going to eat a stop. The more time that goes by with the inability to break down below 73,588, that puts me more in the bullish side of today. But we shall see. Hopefully everybody's having a fantastic week. I already said that, I know. I'm going to be so very mad at Nvidia if it breaks down, because it stopped me out yesterday and I've been in that trade since Wednesday. I really hate that. I've been trading for probably close to 15 years at this point, maybe longer. And I honestly can't say that I've gotten over that. Getting stopped out and then seeing price go up in your direction, it still bothers me to this day. It just means I was early. But in Nvidia's case, it doesn't mean I was early at all. It just means there was near-term market chaos that drove prices higher for 5 solid minutes to stop everybody out. But hypothetically speaking, as long as it's trading under February's open, I definitely want to be short on it because it's threatening a downside break. Right? So I'm not in it anymore. So I got to wait and pick my battles. And I don't like the entry here. I just don't. It's very choppy, very chaotic. But it does appear to be rejecting resistance. Can you please look at Irene real quick? Irene. Irene tried to close back above the weekly 21 yesterday, or last week. It failed. This week, gap up. That's nice. You kind of want to see that hold this week. That would be pretty much my line in the sand by the close of this week, which won't happen until Friday, unfortunately. So you're going to have to make a decision sometime between now and then. But I definitely would want to see this closing above. The moving averages are pretty good indicators. I mean, they don't always work, obviously, but they are decent indicator to keep you on the right side of the trend. I mean, just because we're trading above the weekly 21 on Nvidia doesn't mean Nvidia is going back to the upside. It kind of feels like it is, but we'll see. And Nvidia is not trending either. Nvidia is very sideways and has been since October of 2025. This asset, not so much. It was trending very, very strongly. So is it choppy? Yeah, you're in about a 7-week range at this point. So it is very choppy, but it does look like it's trying to build in support. which is what I would want to see on an asset that is bullish. So basically, to make a long story short, if it can hold 36.59, I could potentially be buyer all the way down to that price. In terms of where is it going to reverse, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. The 4-hour structure still looks bearish here, so I would not love the idea of buying support. If I was looking for a scalp trade, I would be bearish on this. Because this looks like a failed breakout. It could hold. It held here. You broke out there. It held there. So that's what you would want to see happen here. If the uptrend is going to resume, you would want to see it resumption off of 42.50. Just be careful because the near-term structure does look like a beautiful short. These are areas that we would be looking to short. If there's an objective level up here with this moving average structure, this would be on the docket for a short. But longer term, it looks okay. It looks good. There goes that fresh low like we anticipated happening. So now is the question, do we trend now? If it does, then obviously I'm going to eat a stop. Then I will eat a stop. US oil bouncing a little bit here. Still looks okay for downside continuation. Fartcoin down near the lowest lows on the range. Still looks very bullish here. I don't like Fartcoin's deltas. Fartcoin's deltas are more bearish than bullish. So I don't like that. This is what you get in a sideways market. You get what looks like going to be a breakout and then it fails, right? That's been crypto's MO since Bitcoin broke down in October. You have failed every bullish breakout attempt. So to think that we're going to see it actually happen today, the odds of that are low, right? The odds of that are low. No, I can't short it, though. I can't short it from here. I can jump out of the long, but I don't see any reason to do that. You're still well above the weekly VWAP here, so the trend is still more up than down. Bitcoin is trying to assess that right now. Bitcoin is literally trying to say, are we going lower today or what? What's going on here? I am short, by the way, Australia dollar, US dollar. I did get that trade off. Stop loss is setting a 71196. So at this point, if Aussie dollar goes up, it makes a fresh high day. I don't want to be involved in the short. I'll wait for it to find resistance tomorrow or something. And I might not even have a short side bias on Aussie depending on how it closes today. On the daily chart, I can't really be a bear on Aussie dollar, unfortunately. On the daily, it is very strong. You could not maintain many closes under the daily 21 exponential. You got one Friday, and that was it. After that, you were right back above it. So that kind of infers that the bullish trend is still very, very much alive on the Aussie dollar. When it comes to Bitcoin, the daily moving average is, I don't think it's all the way down there. Let's get it where it's supposed to be. I know it is lower, but it's not that lower. It's right here. Let's get the closing price from yesterday, 71.65. As we want it to be there. There, perfect. That's where your daily 21 exponential moving average is on Bitcoin. So, I mean, Bitcoin does look like it is trying to On the very near term, it looks identical to what it did over here. Identical. It is the exact same thing. The only difference between the price action we have now versus the price action we had back in January is it took 54 days. This pattern was from the time you set that low till the time you rejected back under resistance, which was here, the December high. That was the objective resistance. Once you got back under that was 54 days. So we're a little bit early in terms of that, but I mean, it is identical. And yeah. So, I mean, obviously that is why everybody is super bearish on Bitcoin right now. Sentiment is still terrible. It has been terrible for so long. But, you know, if you look at indicators to give you, if you're looking for like asymmetric risk to reward bets, if you're a money manager or whatever, every indicator you look at on Bitcoin at these prices or on the lows down around 70, 65, 70, it's a buy for the macro positioning. But unfortunately, you do have a bear flag staring you right in the face. And we'll see if it breaks down or not. March's VWAP is very well underpriced. So for the month of March, Bitcoin is nicely bullish. Good morning to you all, says Tank. What's up, Tank? Photoboxy. Glad the algo recommended you. Good morning. Good morning. Good luck. Yep. Same to you. Good morning. Good luck. If you guys are trading any of the trade setups or trade ideas that I post, please make sure you're mitigating your risk. Make sure you know what you stand to lose. If you're long Bitcoin, just know what you stand to lose if it does break down, because it could. Like I said, big levels up here. Huge level. If they're going, like, if people really are, is basically what I'm trying to say. Like, if this market is really being manipulated and businessmen are legitimately trying to squeeze Saylor, then it makes sense for them to do that right here. Right? Because for just a brief moment in time yesterday evening, Michael Saylor could breathe a sigh of relief. I know you've all been there. I've been there millions of times. A sigh of relief. Oh, gosh, that was so painful. And then for a brief moment, right back to the red. So if it's being manipulated, if it's controlled, then hypothetically speaking, it should not go back up there. I don't think it is being manipulated. I don't think it is controlled. Well, we'll see. I mean, in hindsight, it would look pretty to be short at Saylor's cost basis if Bitcoin does go on to make a lot of bigger lows, right? Lower lows. I just kind of feel like that short trade is so crowded. It just is. I think 90% of retail is short right now. But it doesn't mean they're wrong. They do get it wrong a lot, but it doesn't mean they're wrong this time. Only time will tell who's right, who's wrong. Oh, it's 10 o'clock, so the market's been open a clean 30 minutes at this point. You are, never mind. I was about to make a statement that was going to be factually wrong. I was about to say, no, I mean, it was going to be right. You are, or just did make fresh day lows. So that is your daily low as of right now. You're still way up off of the weekly low, but you do have a fresh daily low. Generally, if something is going to remain bullish, you do want to try to buy day lows. The problem with that is we never know what the day low is going to be. We just have to try to figure out where we think it could be. And I think it could be here if the bulls are serious about this move. In terms of where is it trading versus yesterday's range, it looks like a pullback for now. Obviously, if you get down to here today, that will look very bad. That will look like a bearish engulfing, and it will be a bearish engulfing at resistance, which would be, in my opinion, a decent short signal moving on. Right? But if it refuses to trade lower than where it's trading right now, that would just look like a bullish pullback or a buy the dip opportunity. Unfortunately, it's so close to resistance, so you almost need a breakout and then a test of the February open. If you're buying it here, you're buying it at the top of the range, the longer term range. So not a great long setup. Here she goes. If it does start to head much lower, I will eat a stop. Have you looked at gold today? Yes. Yeah, we kind of have a near-term short side bias on gold, only because we did make fresh lows here. I didn't trade gold, and I haven't traded gold. I've been trading silver instead of gold because silver has been moving more in terms of a percent move in the daily range. So there's more opportunity. Obviously, if an asset is moving more, then that's the asset I want to be in. So gold doesn't move that much. I think like at this point you're probably just barely up. Yeah, you are just barely up. But you can see silver is up more. It's just barely, but silver does tend to move more in terms of percentages. And if you take directionally biased bets, then the more percentages moves you get, the better off you're going to be. So there's that. I'm not just, I don't despise gold or silver. I just think that they got a little bit overblown to the upside, and they're probably going to want a deeper correction. But here's the thing with gold. Since it broke out, right, in 2023, it has been making these ascending triangle patterns. And then once it builds in a higher low sequence, it's been breaking out. And that's currently what we have gold doing here. So this was the first lower low that it built in. But I mean, this triangle, if you put it on here and use that, I mean, it's a higher low. So gold isn't bearish. It doesn't look bearish. See, when you go sideways, these sideways movements, once you set the low, each low after that was higher, 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 and then you broke out. So this is clearly the local low here. And you've been making higher lows since then. The gold does look like it isn't done. Now, being short gold right here is a very risky setup. With silver, I can say it's a little bit easier for me to be short silver because it isn't people. Most retail does own silver for the long-term buy and hold. I buy low and I sell it, 10 years from now higher, right? So it does have that, usually only go up feel to it, but it's also a commodity. It's used in a lot of electrical products. So the manufacturers of those products are going to want silver prices down more so than they would want gold prices down, right? So for those reasons, I think the silver run may be done for a while. I think what we got in silver was a blow off top. I could be wrong. If it makes fresh highs this year, I will be wrong. But I think what we got here is a clear blow off top. And generally when that happens, that high ends up being the cycle high for a while. So I think what you're going to see a lot of on silver for this entire year will be a lot of chop. Moving from range lows to range highs and then back to range lows, that sort of thing. If it does continue to build in higher lows like it is doing here, then my bias will shift. It will eventually shift. So this was a bearish engulfing weekly candle, as you can clearly see, at resistance. So we were looking for downside pressure to come off from this move last week and this week. And this week, so far, we did make that lower low. Last week was an inside week, very range bound, very choppy, normal price action. Now, if we're going to see a deeper correction on silver, we would want to see that happen this week for that 3-bar play. If you just visualize a candle in your head, blue means down, and then that's 1 week. Your secondary weekly candle would be that bullish pullback, and then the third candle would give you that 3-bar play or that drive, that range expansion. So if we're going to see something similar to this, then we want to see that happen this week, which is why as long as silver's not trading above last week's open, which is 81.48, I will be bearish. You have already made a lower low. Now, some people will look at that as a bullish signal, and I would agree with them. As long as you're trading away from this low, you could hypothetically got long here. But if this near-term trend is going to continue, I would anticipate those longs getting stopped out for this. But only time will tell if that's right or not. So this week, the fact that it did make that lower low and then has went up to set a lower high. So it will be a lower high as long as it's trading under 89.82. Even if it gets all the way up there, as long as it doesn't take it out, it will still be a lower high. So the selling pressure will still be kind of aggressive. I think what you have going on here is just silver bulls were waiting to see if you're going to get that dollar pullback. The dollar was overbought. The dollar was up at a massive resistance level. So they were willing to buy silver for the dollar pullback. Now, all we got to do is figure out where those buyers are going to take profits. Hopefully that would be, if it breaks out above this, hopefully it's in this area. And if that happens, I will add to my short. For a day trade short, like if you think it's going to be lower today, I mean, could it be a bearish engulfing today? Yeah, but I doubt it, right? But this, I mean, you don't have a great short signal here. The deltas say that it should go lower, but if the deltas are trending lower and price isn't, that could indicate that there's an iceberg in here or a large buyer. Because every time price gets down near the lows, it refuses to go lower because there's a big buyer that is sitting down there soaking up all those asks. That's auction market theory. I don't really subscribe to that notion, but I typically do want to see weak deltas and a high POC if I'm looking for a short. if that makes sense. So I kind of have a near-term bearish bias on silver, even though this week it is currently up. But it's just a near-term bias. Longer term, I mean, silver and gold could both make fresh all-time highs. And if the central banks are what caused this massive move, and it's not because of inflation, which we know it isn't because of inflation, because we've gotten inflation prints. Inflation is fine. So it is central bank. It's driven from central banks buying and hoarding gold and silver. If they are continuing to do that, then obviously gold and silver will make new highs. But I haven't seen the data yet. I haven't seen the data that says that is happening. I don't know when it comes out either. I'm just waiting on someone to tell me. Essentially, I'm just waiting for them to be like, yo, yeah, they are. Okay. And then my bias would probably shift back to bullish because of those longer term higher lows. When you're trend following trading is so easy because you're just basically looking for the trend and then you're looking to put positions on in that direction. And clearly the longer term trend is up. So trend is going to be subjective, dependent on time frame. Unless you're objectively analyzing price. I mean, in this case, I don't really know. I think they're both still objectively bullish. I think they're both up on the year still. I could be wrong about that, but I don't have the yearly opening range here. Yeah, they're both up for the year of 2026. They're both still up. So, yeah. Just crazy up. Absolutely insanity up. But that lower low was nice. Finally got one. Right? We've basically been short silver since up here. I can show you that position. But we have also been short. We've been shorting it since it rolled over up here. And I just basically been adding to that trade. So it is a nice two-leg downtrend. It could be over if it is going to slowly trend back to the upside. If that is the case, these lows need to be respected. I would not want to see a lower low. You could still have a bullish bias on both gold and silver. Macro supports it, actually. Okay, so Bitcoin did make a fresh daily low and has not made another one yet. It doesn't look like it has a lot of bullish pressure to it yet. Barcoin is usually a pretty good judge of sentiment. Or a gauge, not a judge, a gauge of sentiment. So even though your deltas are bearish, it still hasn't made a fresh daily low yet. So if Fartcoin was to blast through that low and that VWAP right there, I would probably have more of a near-term bearish bias on Bitcoin. And it does look like Fartcoin will be making another low. You've got 15 minutes left on this 30-minute candle, and you're inside the previous one. It won't be until you take that high out that you'll be able to say that you have something different happening on the very near term. The same thing would be Bitcoin would need to break above here. If it could break above here and then start to trend, then we could say, yeah, it does look like the longs have it here. But not until that happens. And XTI, which is still, oil, is still not rolling over yet. So we may be seeing the dollar trying to build in support here. We'll see. I don't like that look. It looks like it definitely wants to go lower. I haven't been stopped out of the Bitcoin long yet, so that means for at least right now, it's okay. Can you have a look? Let me read these real quick first. ETH is the most honest trader on the tube. Got to hit the subscribe for sure. Yeah, if you guys don't mind, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. I try to be as honest as possible. I'm not going to give you guys moonshots or anything like that. If that's what you want, apologies. What do you think about the Forex trading, like false move Monday 3-day reversal? Is that an actual move or something that people discuss? What do you think about the Forex trading, like false move Monday? Well, with candlestick analysis, we do know that a lot of times the beginning move of a candlestick is a false move. So hypothetically speaking, if you're saying Monday is the first move of the weekly range, if you're looking at it in terms of the entire week's range, then yes, Monday could hypothetically be a false move. Yes. We had back tested data for Bitcoin that Tuesday was a good day to look for the weekly high or the weekly low. But this was back in 2023 and 2024, because in 2025 that data did not hold up. In other words, that edge was priced out of the market in 2025. Whereas it did happen more often in 2023 and 2024. Basically, all that means is on Tuesday at the New York session, you fade whatever's happening. So if you're currently making fresh weekly highs, you short it. If you're currently making fresh weekly lows, you buy it. Because the data was strong that, or it happened often enough to where that was an edge. It literally was. But in 2022, it wasn't. It only happened 23% of the time. I mean, 2025. But that's for Bitcoin. I haven't back tested Forex. Forex spends a lot of time chopping sideways, back and forth. So Forex does give you a better, I guess, scalping. If you want to be a scalper, Forex would be better for that. If you're looking for big macro trending moves, then you would want to be in stocks or Bitcoin or something that grows, a growth asset. But occasionally you do get nasty trends in Forex. Just look at Swiss franc, for instance. That thing has been trending up solid since the beginning of 2025. So occasionally Forex does give way to big trending moves. So me trying to call a reversal on Aussie, it's just looking for that pullback in gold and silver. If gold and silver do not pull back, then I would assume Aussie dollar goes on up to make fresh highs, as that has been the trend. And then, yeah, let's go look at Hood. But in terms of your exact question, I wouldn't just fade Monday. I don't have enough data to suggest that that would be a successful strategy. Generally speaking, depending on risk to reward and all that, if you can just do a 40% win rate and have a 3-to-1 risk to reward, you will be profitable long term. So I mean, if you can fade Monday and get a 40% hit rate, then math says that strategy will be successful. All right, yeah, let's go look at Hood real quick while we're waiting on Bitcoin to suss out direction here. Robinhood. I heard a commercial the other day for Robinhood saying that they have betting markets also, like not just crypto, Forex and stocks. You can also play sporting bets. Is that true? It seems like that would be good for Robinhood if they allowed sports betting and all that stuff too. The stock itself looks like it went on a phenomenal run. Clearly it's pulled back really strongly. This pullback is going to be due to crypto, due to Bitcoin, I would assume. So, I mean, if Robinhood offers any kind of Bitcoin products where they have to be a buyer or a net buyer and a holder of Bitcoin, then that's why you saw Bitcoin pressure being put on Hood. It's still really bad here. Really bad. I mean, any move back up to the daily 200 exponential would probably be a fadeable event because you have a death cross here. So you got a death cross between the 50 and 200 exponential on the daily time frame. That happened in February, the end of February. So now the first pullback to the 200, I would assume, gets faded. So, I mean, any push up into there would be a take profit style move, unless you're looking for like a multi-year buy and hold. I have to make sure that I say this constantly because you didn't give me a time horizon. You just said, can you look at Hood? Hood does look like it is trying to accumulate, but so does Bitcoin. It is a bear flag. You are bearish on the year. The flag portion of that pattern is getting a bit long in the tooth. I generally don't want to see the flag be larger than the pole. And you're getting there. So at what point does it stop being a bear flag? I would say next month. If next month you don't get that downtrending move, then your flag is probably broken. And it's probably going to be looked at more as a longer term consolidation. Clearly it looks bad, right? You didn't quite hit oversold on Hood either. It doesn't look great. It's struggling. It is struggling to get off those lows, but the more time that goes by, that will start looking better and better to other investors. You do have earnings coming up, what looks like in May. You're going to have all of April. It doesn't look terrible. And if this did get sold off because of Bitcoin, then I imagine if Bitcoin does ultimately get above 75.8, which is Sailor's cost basis, then Hood will probably also do well. My one caveat would be Hood does not look nearly as good as either Coin or Circle does right now. Right? Both Coin and Circle look way better than Hood in terms of what it's done in the last 5 to 6 weeks. But this could be faded as well. It is still bearish on the year, but it's less of a bear flag now. Less of a bear flag. You are retracing, I would say, probably well above the 50% or the midpoint of the yearly range at this point in time. So far, it has been squeezing shorts, right? It has been squeezing shorts. It will be interesting to see if it can retest the weekly 21 and what happens when it gets up there. Because Hood has not done any of that yet, I would say there is inherent weakness for some reason. Right? Depending on where you own it from, would determine what I would do with this. I wouldn't do anything with it right here myself. Not where it currently is. If it can respect and hold the lows, then that's where I would want to be a buyer. But I mean, it really hasn't done anything. 73.33 would be that place that I'd be interested in buying. If it can hold, obviously. With a stop on new lows. So I would basically get long at like 73.50 with a stop down at 69.30. And if I took that trade, I would only risk 1% of the portfolio's equity and see what happens. But there is weakness here for sure. And then Circle looks even better than Coin does. Circle is up on the year. Circle is no longer a bearish asset. You are closing weeks above the 21. You are above the yearly open. Is it bearish compared to 2025? Yes. But 2025 is in the books. It's over. People they're paying taxes on 2025 right now. That what happened in 2025 doesn't apply in 2026. So just looking at it in terms of like that, this thing is flying this year. It looks really good. It looks really good. You've been making fresh year high after fresh year high for the last 4 weeks in a row. That's a fresh year high, fresh year high, fresh year high. You're doing it now. You are trending up. So maybe there's hope for Hood. Bitcoin is struggling to get anything going here. So it's starting to feel more and more like we probably will end up eating a stop on this. And we did get a pullback on Aussie dollar, but it is still just that, a pullback. I wouldn't call it a full-on reversal just yet, but that trade looks pretty okay. We'll see what that does. But yeah, I want to see Bitcoin start to trade away from this area. Get above the weekly VWAP and start to trend. As long as it's under 74,190, which is your prior 4-hour swing high, it's also the prior 8-hour and 12-hour. Well, it's not the prior 8-hour high. Or this current 8-hour high, but it is the 12-hour high. So you got to get above this before you can say something else is happening. So I want to see it do this. That looks good, right? Wick, wick, wick. This candle could close up in here. That would look better. Then it would start to look like this is just a pullback, and we could look for that move higher. Only time will tell, but we'll see, right? At least it's starting to back up off of that a little bit. It's not far, but I kind of figured people would start getting bullish at least a little bit, but it still looks pretty freaking nasty out there. Oh, and this is where I got that data from, just in case you wanted to see actual proof of this being the average cost basis for MicroStrategy, 75,863. And this was just posted the other day, March 15, so 2 days ago. Anyways, things are still looking kind of bearish out there. Cumulative volume delta across exchanges showing signs of recovery. Yes, I can also vouch for that. Let's go look at it real quick. Let's just look at March alone real fast. We just want to look at March's data only. Oop, sorry. And then pull up the cumulative volume delta. And what we're looking for here is just, are there more bullish days than bearish days? And the answer to that is yes. So the way my cumulative volume delta works is this dotted line is neutral. It's just neutral. So when you're positive, the bulls are in control. When you're negative, the bears are in control. So on this day, wasn't very, very negative at all. This day wasn't very negative at all. This was a bad day. No kidding. Yep, that was the worst day in March. But if you flip the script, you had 2 bullish days that were way worse than that in terms of numbers, right? 2K. You were in 2K over here where you're not even at 1,000 on this day. And then here's another big bullish day, another big bullish day. This is kind of neutral mixed, but still better than what the bears have been able to do inside of March. So, and price is confirming this as well. So deltas are saying volume has been a lot more aggressively, or a lot more bullishly aggressive. And price is confirming that by moving higher on the monthly range. This is your monthly open. There was your monthly low. Did you ever make a new monthly low? The answer is no. Did you ever make any new monthly highs? The answer was yes. That's your monthly high, secondary monthly high, tertiary, quadruple. 5 times you've made fresh monthly highs. You made a fresh monthly low 1 time. So the trend is for the month of March heading higher, and volume kind of confirms it. So yeah, I agree with that post. But he's obviously looking at an oscillator here or something. I don't know what he's looking at, but cumulative volume delta bias is definitely more bullish than bearish. But I still can't read this. I don't know what that is. Let me go see here real quick. I don't follow a lot of Uber bears, but I've been seeing a lot of bearish posts. I haven't even looked today at all, so I don't know what's going on today, what sentiment is like today. I mean, there's a war happening, so I know sentiment is probably mostly negative. I'd like to see Bitcoin break out of here with a nice momentous move. Deltas are negative today. They're not severely negative, but they are more negative. So it's going to be difficult for the buyers if they don't start to show some pressure. I would say the sellers still potentially have this. This is very weak price action. Tomorrow is when you're going to get a massive data dump. You're going to get PPI, you're going to get the BOC interest rate decision, and then the Fed interest rate decision, FOMC. Then that night, BOJ, which all of them are not forecasted to do anything. 225 is where the BOC is. 225 is what's expected. The Fed is not expected to do any different, any changes to the rate policy. Same for the BOJ. If this is maybe the wild card. I haven't listened to James Stanley yet this week. I haven't got his thoughts on it. Maybe see what he has to say about it. He is a lot more macro driven than I am. And then later on that week, you're going to get BOE interest rate decision. You're going to get BOE unemployment numbers. And then ECB interest rate decision. So a lot of central banks making moves this week. You already got the RBA, which they actually did pop. So that could be why we're seeing a little bit of strength here. That happened on Monday evening. So that's why Aussie is so strong. Interest rate hikes are good for the country's currency, or the country's currency. That's why we have a macro bearish dollar bias, because the US is currently cutting interest rates. But I will say that a country hiking interest rates should be positive. We have not seen that take place yet in the yen, which is why the BOJ is hiking, because they're trying to get the yen to bounce without full-on intervening. They don't want to have to intervene, but obviously they're going to have to eventually. So I would say the BOJ is a wild card. They could hike. I doubt they will. Otherwise, it would be forecasted. But there is a very slight chance. If you looked at it on a distribution curve, on a bell curve, this would be hike. I would say it's way out here that they do anything. It's probably not high in terms of probabilities, but a slight, very slight chance. So at least you've made a higher high since the New York session open on Bitcoin. That's good. Nvidia is still rejecting 4-hour res. So I'm going to be extremely upset if I've missed that trade entry. So we should find out here soon if Nvidia is going to rally today or if it's going to roll over. If it was going to roll over, I would anticipate those bears putting on that pressure now, or just a little higher. Not much higher, just a little higher. And then as long as you're trading above the prior swing highs, we'll use this one because it's closer to resistance. If you're trading above there, I would not be putting on shorts. So we'll see what Nvidia does at 184.12. Let me set an alert here, because if it does get up there and reject, I will put that short back on. S&P gapping up here. The cash market, that is a fresh weekly high. So you're back above December's low, which should have been resistance if the bears were legit. It could end up being resistance. This could be a bull trap. You did fill the gap from last week just then. So maybe that's what they were looking to do. We'll see. Let me pull up the NDX so we can see what the NASDAQ has done. Yeah, this should have already broken down. I mean, if you're looking at it in terms of patterns, this is a choppy mess right here. An absolute chop fest. Absolute garbage. You got a double top. I mean, if the sellers wanted to beat this thing up, they would have done it already. So it's kind of odd. It's like the market is waiting for a catalyst of some sort. It's so weird. And I know why we're not making fresh highs on both NDX and on the SPX, because we saw that rotation, that capital rotation from growth to value. That's what kept it from breaking out. But what's keeping it from breaking down? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I would say it's just a super crowded trade. That's my best opinion on the matter. I would assume it's just super crowded to the downside. Yeah, let's go look at the rotations real quick. See what's going on there this week. Okay, so this week, not a lot, right? Not a lot. You broke out above the prior week's high this week, and you made a higher high there. So if it gets back under here, then I'll say maybe then we could look for the breakdown. But I mean, I'm not seeing any no massive bid pressure coming back to growth, right? So in terms of seeing a breakout of fresh all-time highs, I don't know that we got enough evidence for that. The best evidence that we have for this thing is because it just has not broken down yet. Like, that is the only evidence that I can make for the bulls. Last 3 weeks have been a trend, though, so that's nice. You could see that continue. I just wouldn't be looking to put a short on right here. Me, myself, and I. Up there is where I would do it. If I was going to do it, it would be right there. And only if it rejects. So it rejected here. If it could, I wouldn't even want to see it get back up there if I had a short bias on it, right? You filled the gap now. So if the sellers are strong and they're real, you would kind of want to see them show up here in the next 4 hours. So if you're making higher 4-hour highs on SPX, I wouldn't be bearish today. With that being said, if you can't get back to 67.47, I could be. Because that's where the gap fill happened. You have filled the gap. Crazy stuff, very choppy. Even Tesla failed to break down. Even Tesla failed to break down. It got back down here to the range lows and bounced again. Just imagine if you've been a bear on Tesla since 406, since over in here. Early February, you've been short Tesla. You have not made anything. It hasn't gone anywhere. And generally, when you're short something, the downside trade pays out quicker and far more aggressively. So these are the reasons why I'm worried about a short squeeze. Could be coming. And in my opinion, that would be good for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is still treated as a risk-on, risk-off currency. It's treated as a risk-on currency, not risk-off. Sorry. Yeah, Robinhood has future contracts for sports betting. I did it last year during the football season. Nice. Maybe I should look into that then. I don't like betting on all sports, but I don't mind betting on UFC. I like the UFC. That's probably my favorite thing to watch in terms of sports. That and pro football, but football season's over, as you said. Would I short XRP here? That was earlier. I don't know when you said that. I wish YouTube would put a timestamp on these chats. Good trade on silver, says Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it was. I took profits. I've taken profits on it several times. It has been a really good trade. Okay, good. Okay, read all that stuff up there. So would I be short XRP here? Probably not. We got long Fartcoin yesterday. We're long Bitcoin right this second. So it would be hard for me to be short XRP and long Bitcoin. I could if there were mixed signals. Like, for instance, if XRP was showing me inherent weakness, the deltas were a lot more bearish, the structure was a lot more bearish, like, then in that scenario, I could hypothetically do something like that. But generally speaking, I try to get a daily buy, because I'm a day trader. I try to get a daily bias on an asset class, not so much a standard asset. So I get a directional bias on dollar risk. I see what the VIX is doing, what is oil doing, then crypto. What is Bitcoin doing? Whatever my Bitcoin analysis is, generally that's going to be across the board when it comes to crypto. But with that being said, I can look at it for you. You are rejecting the weekly high pretty strongly, I might add. You're under the midpoint. With that being said, yesterday was that range. If you look at today, well, yesterday and today. So today you put in that upside continuation move. Yes, this is a bearish candle, but my argument is you've made a higher high. And as of right now, this is a higher low. So even though the candle is red, I would argue that you've got 9 hours to go for this close. It has to close bearishly just to bring more sellers in tomorrow. But if that ends up being the low of day and it closes up today, if it closes above yesterday's high, then no, I would not want to short that. I want to short things that are making lower lows and lower highs. So this wouldn't even be a short setup for me, just because of the simple fact that it has made a higher daily high today. So that automatically tells me, even though you pulled back for the last 8 hours, the bulls were in control of order flow up until they were not. So this would have to be looked at as a pullback on structure. What kind of a pullback? A bullish breakout pullback. So until the bears prove that they're in control of this, being short could be the wrong trade to make. Now, I'm sure you could try to short it. Like, you could pick some levels to look at and short it from. But I think you're against near-term order flow, which would be trend. However, I will be wrong if you, like I said, if you closed as a bearish engulfing daily candle, then yeah, obviously today would have been a good day for a short. That's stuff we can never know. We'll never be able to look at anything and tell what the day is going to do. Just given the structure and everything else that we have here today, I would not be looking for shorts. Me and myself. You have full on put on a bullish cross here on the 4-hour 200. Right? The daily is well above the 21. So it is no longer weak on the near term. You're pulling back because you're testing the 50. There's resistance up here, sure. But there's really nothing here. I don't see any reason why sellers sold 1.6090. Like, why did they sell there? I don't see anything to the left of the chart telling me that that should have been a short setup. So you could say if you can't close any higher 4-hour candles, then you could hypothetically put on a short position. I would look for that position around 1.5301. And that's only, you do have trending deltas. Okay, you've got that. Do you have a high point of control? And even if you do, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be right on a trade either. But it at least gives you that confluence, right? We generally are, if we're looking at indicators, we're looking for confluence. Multiple reasons to give us a trade entry. We don't have very many, other than this was a rejection from some random price. So yeah, I mean, on the very near term, you are making lower highs and lower lows on the 4-hour time frame. So I would need to see that continue. So if it traded up to the prior 4-hour open and failed, then I could put on a short given what the deltas look like. But I mean, that's putting on a short damn near at the daily low. That would be putting on a short damn near at the day low, and I would only be able to anticipate a 2% move back in that direction because that's where the low is. Would you even think it's a short anymore if it breaks out and gives you a giant bullish candle all the way back up to here? Probably not. Probably not. I was going to say you are below the weekly VWAP though, but that's a moving average. That is a moving average. Where is Monday's open? Right there. You are below the VWAP. You're doing basically the same thing Bitcoin is doing right now. You finally broke under the VWAP here, and were the bears aggressive? No, they were not. This is not aggressive selling pressure. And that's what you would want to see. You would want to see order flow confirming that weakness. You just don't see it. Yeah, it's under, but it's barely been able to make fresh day lows. And each time it did, it struggled to close under it. You still haven't closed a 30-minute candle. Well, yeah, you did. That candle right there closed under what was your early day low. I can't predict what price will do. Nobody can, and there's no indicator that will accurately or consistently tell you where price is going from this point in time. We just know it is going in one of these two directions, or it's just going flat. So that's the probability curve of where the markets could go from this point. Your day low is right here. Now, if it breaks it and trends lower, the day low could end up down here somewhere, but yeah, it wouldn't be a short for me, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I would argue that it would be bullish if it starts closing 30-minute candles back above that. One spot 5152. You start closing 30-minute candles back above that, I would argue that this is still very structurally bullish on the week. And this was nothing more than a pullback, a take. So imagine if you bought the week open, which is here. Imagine you just said, you know what? We're getting a brand new weekly open right now. I'm going to get long XRP. So you buy XRP. You don't set a stop. You just buy it. And then XRP goes on to run up 10%. You're probably going to take profits, aren't you? I would. Of course. I did yesterday on Fartcoin. It did that exact same thing almost. Took profits. After I took profits, what happened? Price pulled back. So obviously I wasn't the only trader taking profits. So at best, that's all this move was. If you get a trending move today, then tomorrow people will be watching VWAP for retest short opportunities. Tomorrow, not today. Because at least you can say then, yeah, it may be looking to go lower. But you're still above the weekly open, and anytime you're above the weekly open, price is still very bullish. It's up objectively, right? So not a real good short, but Pingu looks better because Pingu has been failing for, like, it did get a nice pop, but that happened at midnight, Monday at midnight. So that literally, right here's your weekly open on Pingu. That literally happened during the Asian and London session. And then since then, since the London session on Monday, price has done nothing but pullback. So there's not as much bullish momentum in this yet. So this is a little bit weaker. But it still looks like it wants to go higher to me. But that's just a subjective thing anyway. I mean, you're under last week's high, but yeah, I can't really make a good valid short argument for any of these things just yet. Bitcoin, because of Michael Saylor's cost basis. That's it. That is it. That is the only case I can make for the short here. If price refuses to trade above Michael Saylor's MSTR cost basis, then I can make the argument that I would want to be short. If not Bitcoin, then something else, but something that is weaker than all the others. But I would rather just put it on Bitcoin. If the signal is on Bitcoin, just put it on Bitcoin. And right now you do have that. You are under it. But I think people are going to be watching this trend line. It's a pretty easy trend line to get. And most people are going to be watching Binance, Coinbase, or Bitstamp. Those are the three main exchanges that people are looking at to make trading decisions. Right there's your daily resistance level. It's the highest daily close. So if price refuses to trade up above that or that trend line, you could make the argument that you could put on a short there if you want to short something. I wouldn't just put on a short for the sake of putting on a short, though. I'm not a sell-only bias guy. I will do what the market tells me to do. Usually, that's the way I want to be positioned. And right now, unfortunately, the market's telling me that it should be. You should probably be looking for buys, not sells. However, yesterday would have been a better day for that, because yesterday you weren't quite into resistance yet. Today you did. So today might not be the best day for a buy, but so far it's working. We didn't take a stop. So that's a positive right there, because almost every time, this will be the fourth trade I've taken on Bitcoin since that capitulation low. I've tried to get positioned for a long on Bitcoin 4 times. The first 2 were stops. The third time was a profitable trade, as I took profits quicker because it's range bound. And because of that, I ultimately did eat a stop, but because of that, I did make money. And then this will be the second time that I'm trying to get positioned long since that day. So, I mean, it has not been easy, because it has been chopping around and quite violent price action. It hasn't been an easy read. So far this week, it's doing pretty good. It's showing us strength here. This is not weakness. This is strength. The bears have had it under the VWAP since 5 o'clock this morning. It is now 10:57 a.m., so over 5 hours. Almost 5 hours. So you would think it would be trending lower by now, right? If I shorted, which I would have been stopped out, but if I had a bearish bias today, this is where I would have been looking for the trade, not the long here. I would have been taking the short there. If I'm looking to get in from like anywhere between 9:30 and 10, I'm looking to get that entry off. I would feel like that trade is wrong right here, right? It's been an hour and it isn't going lower. It isn't making fresh lows. When you're taking day trade scalps early in the morning or at New York session opens, generally you want to get into a position and then see price head in that direction rather quickly. That's generally when we know where we might be right on the trade. If we get in it and then pretty quickly it starts to move in our direction. That's what we're looking for. That tells us we might be on the right side of this thing. Because we're not making fresh day lows, we're on the right side of it. Oil. Oh, right there it is. Oil has still failed to put in that lower low yet. I don't remember the contracts again. I was going to try to put that on. Let's see. BMNR. BNM. Oh. BNK. Here, I have to look at the YouTube video again. I don't remember it. My brain just... BRNK. We want to look at BRNK, BRNM. We want to look at that. This is the spread, if you will, between the futures contracts on oil. So whenever it's up, you're in backwardation. Backwardation just means the near term contracts on the very near term. This month's contract is more expensive than the further out month. And then you can go out even further, right? In some cases, you can trade out to like 4 months away in oil futures. And when those real far out in time futures are cheaper than the really near term futures, what that essentially, that's called backwardation. So your near term is more expensive because nobody has any idea what future prices will look like. So they put the near term futures get more volatile. So it's called backwardation. And when it gets back down to normalcy or contango, then by that time oil will probably, actual oil prices will most likely have pulled back somewhat. They don't have, like, this chart doesn't have to get all the way back to where it was before it broke out. It just needs to trend in this direction. If it can do that, then we do want to be more of a oil near-term bear, if that makes sense. Because prices are getting back in line. We're not anticipating it to be a nasty drop. The only way you get a nasty drop on oil prices right now is if you get a press release that says the strait is open again. And even then, I don't know how aggressive the drop would be. Because even though they get it open again, it could still take some time before you actually get things back to the good, back prior to the war, where oil was before the war, if you will. So I'm not short oil because I think that's going to happen or anything. I'm short oil because the weekly range is heading lower. I actually thought this would be where oil broke back to the upside, and then I was going to be more near-term bullish. I was waiting for this move right here to tell me, who has most control of order flow right now. So because it broke, because it was refusing to close higher 30-minute candles above this candle's close, like it traded right here, right up into it and failed. So this candle, that's when I put the short on. Literally, when this candle pushed up into this candle's price, the close, that's when I fired the short position off. Right there. No, wait, it was not. I wasn't up at 430, was I? It says my entry is 97.15. It is here, but that's not what it looks like on the other one. Yeah, this chart doesn't look anything like the chart up there. And I'll just show you the chart up there. Well, let's go to the 30-minute time frame here. Oh, I guess it was. Okay, so it doesn't look anything like it. It kind of does here. It did still reject, but I was late getting a trade off. Okay. Got it. But once it started to fail, then it felt like it was probably going to head that way. Getting closer and closer to the morning. Because if this was a nice break here, if the bulls really had it, then you would have wanted to see a continuation at some point. It just spent so much time doing nothing. I was like, yeah, right here's as good as place as any to get short. And it is breaking under the 50 here. So that's a good look too. So if I could get an oversold reading, because the position is so small, but it's not due to me. It's due to the platform not allowing me to take anything bigger than 40. 40 was max position size. So I had to take 39, contract short. If I get an oversold reading, I'll be able to take profits. There's going to be more of a swing trade though. These things move kind of slow unless volatility picks up. If volatility picks up, I'll probably be stopped. And here's the Bitcoin long. Bullish engulfing as support. That's a good look. I like that. It's just a small move and there's resistance up here. This is kind of not the best trade to take. You're already overbought. See this? You're already overbought. The best trade to take that long on Bitcoin is here. Even then, you got overbought. So here would have been the best place. Because that, at least that way, you're coming from oversold. The problem is we never know if this little bit is going to be a trap or not. We just don't know. There's nothing we can do to tell us. We just have to take it because it is what it is. That was Monday of last week. So I'm just looking at it, at the candles here with the indicator. So bullish, bullish, bullish. That's a much higher close than this close. That's the highest close. So that's the first real proof of a breakout being legit. 12 a.m. No, that's 12 p.m. So this is when you pulled back into the 50. You're also above the 21 here. You could have been watching prior lows. That would have been the best place for the long. And yeah, I understand that this is a hindsight. Like I'm going back in hindsight and seeing all this play out. But you can wait for that. And then that, you know, on the 4 hour, if it goes from oversold up above the 50 back into the 50, if the bulls are legit, they should be there with you. That would have been the best place. We've already hit oversold, overbought. So getting long right here, you need a breakout. Like you need a super big bullish breakout style move. And I just don't see that happening. So generally speaking, this trade idea is not a good one. It's a super risky, less probabilistic outcome because it's already been overbought. I mean, I don't really, obviously I'm trying, when I'm taking these trades, I'm trying to generate about 300. That's what I'm looking to. I'm looking to risk 100 to make 300. I'm looking for a 3-to-1 risk reward. So hypothetically, this isn't a big enough move to take profits on. But the trade idea itself just isn't that good. And because of that, right, it could ultimately have inverse effects on Bitcoin today. Yeah, the structure looks really good. It's Tuesday, so it's early in the week. We've got so many check marks in terms of we should be a buyer for sure. But the price isn't that great. If you get what I'm saying, like the price is a little bit too expensive in terms of markets and probabilities. It's too expensive. It's already been overbought several times. I'm hoping, like I would need a legitimate big breakout move today in order for this to account to anything. And then we can go look at the Fartcoin long yesterday. Same, right? Exactly the same. Like I'm getting long after we hit overbought. So the fact that Fartcoin did this is pure luck. Absolute pure luck. 100% pure luck. Oversold to overbought right here. That trade didn't pan out. It didn't pan out. You would have been stopped out probably a couple of times. So it doesn't always happen, and it is very easy to go back and cherry pick that garbage. I get it. But that is generally going to be your better opportunities. It's just not going to work out every single time. So as a trader, you know this. So this is why you have to mitigate risk, because you know it won't work as good all the time. It's not going to be like, if I just do what Trade Talk says, this is what it's doing, I'm going to make money. Nope, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You still have to be very good at mitigating risk. And as long as you can do that, you might have been able to, because it stayed choppy here. I still would have liked it for the long. Nothing would have changed, right? Absolutely nothing would have changed. And I would have argued that because you got this breakdown close candle here, and then immediately went up and took out the high, that's a bear trap. So that would have had me exceedingly bullish in this area. I would have been looking for opportunities. So I would have got stopped out on the first attempt right here, boom. But I would have kept it on watch and kept the bullish bias, and then look to attack it again over here. So be patient. These are all traits that most humans have. Anybody can do this stuff. It's so, like, it's not easy. It's still very hard because money's involved. There's money involved, and money, there's your lover or money. Like, those are the two biggest things in a human's life that's going to make you emotional. Your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your money. And kids, if you have kids, that will make a person emotional real quick too. But if you can put that stuff in check, you can build very simple strategies that do good over time. Consistently. But we'll see if oil can break down or not. I like oil for the breakdown because of what I just said. Similarly, because of the long on Fartcoin and Bitcoin we were just talking about, oil went from massively overbought here to fake breakdown here, right? Fake breakdown, choppy, right back up. Losing momentum, even though price is stronger, you're not really going overbought. This candle happens right here. We were actually looking for this trade yesterday, but I didn't take it because I didn't like it. It was still above the 50. We're still above the 50 here. So maybe me getting short oil today is early just because of that. If this could break down and then give us something like this, right, and price do something similar, if we can line this up with an objective level with an RSI that looks like that, and if the VWAP is also still above price, that would be chef's kiss. That would be the better entry even on oil. Those, like, the indicators can be very helpful to give you signal, or if the signal is still early, or if you get stopped out, it doesn't mean it's gone away. It could still potentially give you an opportunity tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. It might set up perfectly. We can never predict what price will do. But if we lose this 50 here, then at least we'll be able to say on the very near term, on the 4-hour chart, the bulls have lost momentum. They can get it back at any time, but at least other traders will see that as well, and then they will start to flock to that, and then price will slowly respond. The technical analysis can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just, news can destroy that. Obviously, news can completely destroy it. And generally speaking, when you do get news, right? When you do get news, it doesn't matter how good of a trader you are. You're going to eat a stop. It doesn't matter. And now that Nvidia is showing me weakness here today, I'm very upset. It's still bullish on the month, but it's losing that again. This is the monthly VWAP. So maybe I give it a minute, a couple days, see what it does here, and then look for the upside retest, or let price retest this moving average. It's a price average, not a moving average, but still it's an average. Maybe price breaks down today, gives you a little bit of continuation tomorrow. Maybe at some point it comes back and then tests that VWAP from under. Maybe that ends up becoming a better short position. Or maybe it gives us a short position before it rolls over. We'll see. I can't chase it. I can't sell it down here. If it would have came back up here, then at least I can get my risk around that level. It's just, there's just not a lot of stuff to trade here this morning. Bitcoin looks good, and hopefully it gives us upside continuation. Just, it got a little bit long in the tooth a little bit too quickly, I think. It could still work out. If you are still long Bitcoin, you could think about taking profits if you get another spike higher. Just understand, it's not like an A plus setup. It's not like a setup that has me licking my lips. I love it when I see those. I absolutely love it. I get those setups that have me like, oh, I can look at it within 5 seconds. I know exactly what I want to do and where I want to do it at. Those are usually the ones that work out the best, because it's so obvious. A lot of other traders see that as well. Bitcoin may find difficulty breaking back above this. This is a massive level. It is Saylor's cost basis. It's a huge level. Saylor is sitting right now watching price, probably praying, sweating, and praying, because he needs it back above here to fix the MNAV on strategy. But it is starting to look better and better. It is starting to repair itself a lot better, but it still ain't out of the woods. This could still be a short, unfortunately. And I can't tell you it's a short with momentum or averages or anything like that, but because of what this price is, I can say, yeah, it could still fail. This could literally cause, look what happened when you tagged that 4-hour resistance. Like, that's your 4-hour res. Remember, that's what I said. You could line a short up there. Look what happened immediately. Immediately. You tagged that price, filled big orders. There was a reaction there. Now, we don't know if it'll keep going or not, but if I was looking for shorts, that's where I would have done it this morning, based on Saylor's average cost. But it's not his average cost, it's MicroStrategy's average cost, so I should probably write that. I don't want to get sued. I don't think he would, but you never know. People are weird. But yeah, that's it. In my opinion, Bitcoin needs to get above this price before you can say that it looks better. It looks better, right? As long as you're trading under that, it's still in a bear flag and could break down at any point. I just don't have something that I love. Oh my gosh, look at Zcash. I haven't looked at Zcash in a bit, so give me a second here. I want to see what this is doing. Oh yeah, that looks good. If Zcash could tag February's open again, I would be willing to take that short, but not on the first pass. Because it's got way too much momentum. So if it happens today, don't throw the short on at 302.90 thinking I'm going to put it on, because I'm not. It'll have way too much bullish momentum to step in front of it. You never want to step in front of a steamroller. You never want to try to catch a falling knife. The next day, though, then I'll be interested in it. But I would be interested in it too if it happened today. So I'm definitely going to set an alert. I don't think it'll happen today. That's probably all you're going to get out of it today. That's a big move. This is what I would have loved to see Bitcoin do once it broke out above that prior week's open, which you can't see on the 5-minute chart. This is your prior week's high. Sorry, a high, not open. So when Bitcoin broke out above that right here yesterday, I wish it would have done something like Zcash. Like, show me the short squeeze. Show me that those shorts are getting squeezed. Give me some aggressive big spike. It just didn't do it. It might start at some point, but it hasn't done that yet. And it looks weaker up here. So I am worried about it a little bit. Yeah, I'm kind of concerned with Bitcoin up here. Because if I was the one manipulating it and I was trying to squeeze Sailor, then this looks perfect for me to still do that. So I definitely want it above that to at least get that risk off the table. Bonk, still not a good setup for today. If Farcoin is struggling, if Farcoin's lost a lot of its momentum for whatever reason, it got it yesterday back, but it's been slow. It's been very sideways. You can see how you're just like inside day, inside day, inside day, inside next day, but or prior day. Just not, you're not seeing a lot of breakout style trades or a lot of big moves in either direction. This was a decent short, and with continuation. I mean, it's a pretty good breakout. Yeah, it would just be so hard to be bearish. But I mean, you could potentially watch like 4 Hour Supply or something later on today and see what it does then. DXY has not rolled over yet. So this is what I'm talking about right here. Because the DXY, because the pressure is from the bulls, even though this was aggressive selling pressure, these higher lows starting to build in here on the near term could be indicating a support. If it holds, I would want to be short Aussie dollar. I think Aussie dollar would be the best one to capitalize on dollar long positions. I like it better than gold or silver on dollar long positions. What is Aussie dollar doing? So Aussie dollar is starting to move away a little bit. So this was the weekly high when it traded above. That's why I liked it to the downside. That's an obvious reversal rejection. So this is where I definitely need to see those sellers show back up again. And they are starting to show back up again. So basically, this is what happened at 9 o'clock. You can see 9:30, you did not wick up above the high, so I had to chase it a little bit. And my entry's like right here. Oh, wait, let me go back. That's a 30-minute chart. Yeah, it's right here. It sets right here. Still bullish. There's still bullish pressure here. This is just a pullback. Oh, I could get stopped out. If the dollar breaks down, I will. But at least it is starting to move away from there now. So I'll see what it does. What happens. We'll see. If it does start to move aggressively away, I would say the odds are good that that would be your weekly high. And looking at the weekly chart, it's almost an absolute beautiful place to be short if this candle does close down. So, yeah, if this candle was to close down this week, that short will look sexy. But only time will tell if that's going to happen or not. But I do like it. I like the idea of it. I hate being on the opposite side of the macro positioning, because the macro still very much supports a dollar bearish position. But I know retail is the most short that they've been in like 10 years on the dollar. They were. They're probably gone. Oh, there's Aussie dollar right there. Yeah, retail is probably out by now on dollar, because the dollar's been going up for a couple weeks now. I'd say that last week was the short squeeze on the dollar, because last week was a brutal move higher. Boom. And it broke out above that trend line. So this is a trend line break. It's a long-term trend line. This is a weekly chart. So this trend line has held since May of 2025 until last week. So for now, this week, I have to give this the credit. If it gets back under, then I'll probably go back to being short-sided bias on the dollar. Of course, I will have missed the short, but I was telling people last week and going into Sunday, we did a members-only live stream. I said you would most likely see a pullback from this area because the dollar was overbought and it was Q4 2025's high. So huge level. And it literally opened tag daily res on the open and then fell. Would have been a decent short to put on. And I'm sure a lot of people did. So I kind of like the idea of being short Aussie dollar, because if the dollar does rally this week, it could be another big move. I just don't know if oil will be bullish, and you might need that. You might need oil to be bullish. All right, let me answer some more of these questions. I wonder if Tau will correct or hold. Tau, yeah, Tau was on fire. Oh, let me go to a crypto here. Tau was on fire. Yeah, it was absolutely on fire. It is definitely overbought, so yeah, I mean it's a decent looking weekly candle. Long-term support level down here. Major support. And it held, and now you're seeing an upside spike. It's a short squeeze. If the midpoint of last week's hold, then you could potentially look for upside continuation. That would give it time to give the daily indicator time to chill out. But yeah, sometimes when these things get going, they just go. And then you're always anticipating a deeper correction than what you get. Depending on how brutal the squeeze is, I mean, could I buy it right here? Probably not. I wouldn't love the idea of buying it there, but you could definitely keep it on watch. It's a bull flag for sure. It looks, that's a brutal short squeeze. It would have been nice to be in long that. We didn't watch it. It doesn't have very much liquidity. I don't like the way these deltas look. It's because it's illiquid. I mean, whenever you get 4-hour gaps, I don't like that. So very thinly traded product. And thin traded products can absolutely take off. Another one that was acting crazy the last few days, or at least over the weekend, ICNT. Yeah, it was, we tried to get short here, but I missed it. And I'm glad I didn't, because it came right back. I mean, this thing, how do you trade this? Like, absolutely crazy. Technical analysis doesn't work on something like this very well. Huge wicks, just so much risk in this chart. But still, it's currently breaking out and trying. It looks like it wants to try for more. It would just be difficult to get positioned in it. But Tau, keep it on watch. Excuse me. Yeah, just keep it on watch. It's massively overbought on the daily, but it doesn't mean it can't keep going. It is somewhat of a bull flag. I don't trade patterns, but I mean, your indicator on the 4-hour has cooled off quite a bit. Yeah, I don't love the deltas either on it, but I wouldn't buy it. But if it fails to make lower lows, like if it just wicks, then maybe I could look for a long scalp back up to like 290 or something. But yeah, very, very violent explosion higher. Bitcoin is coming back down. It's not what I want to see. I would love to see it hold, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it to hold. That is a beautiful reaction for the sellers there. An absolute beautiful reaction. That's what I would have wanted to see if I would have taken that short. I wouldn't have taken that short at 11 a.m. though. It would have been right on the outskirts. I would have been, if I would have been like, it's got to do it now. It better not take more than 5 minutes. It didn't. It wicked up into it, and it has been doing nothing but rejecting ever since. So we're probably going to eat a stop now, or in the next 15, 20 minutes. Because now you're going to start stopping people out. And then you'll be stopping me out if you make a fresh day low. But you're already stopping longs out. You're already getting them. And Nvidia is also rejecting here, so there is a little bit more of a risk-off feel today. Look at S&P. Like I said, you got gap fill there. Now you're starting to see those sellers show up. Another reason why I'm not convinced the Bitcoin trade's going to work. Oil also popping, going the opposite direction that I want to see it go. Something could have happened. Dollar's finding support. That's what's happening. It's not something could have happened. That's what's happening. Your dollar upside trend is still firmly intact here, and it is starting to find support. So that Aussie dollar trade might be the saving grace for today's stream. And same with XAG. So if the dollar finds support, I would figure these are going to roll over. I just didn't add to the position here. I wish I would have now. I didn't. Yeah, even gold, that's a bullish engulfing, and you just took out that candle's low. Yeah. Looks like gold and silver are heading lower. I wish I would have added to that position. So if Bitcoin and if I get stopped out of Bitcoin, which I think I will, I'm probably just going to close out the Farcoin long from yesterday, because I don't want to give all this back. Remember, I'm long from here. That's Monday's New York session. That's where we put the long on. I'm not going to let this come all the way back down. It's unrealized gains. I don't want to lose it though. Not all of it, half of it. I'll let half of it go. I'll just end up closing it out, because things are starting to come back more risk off here. On the near term, could change. We'll see. Good morning, Tom. Missed my take profit by a tick. Need one more push lower. On Bitcoin, it looks like you're going to get it. It looks like you're going to get it. Looks like Bitcoin has a bear flag on the hourly. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, you could view that as a flagpole potentially. Yeah. I don't look for stuff like that, but I'm not saying it ain't there either. I would have been looking for the short of 4-hour res. I think that would have been the best place, just because of it's just what I would have been doing if I would have been short or looking for the short. Man, I wish I left my soul short open. Yeah, that usually happens. It's not fun, but it does happen a lot. We looked at Hood. I don't know if that's the same comment that I read early. Yeah, we've already looked at Hood, and I'm assuming you just put it in again. I read that Forex traders follow market maker theory that market makers are manipulating. Yeah, don't buy into that. Market makers they're directional neutral. They're delta neutral traders. They do not trade direction. Market makers are trading the spread. They're liquidity providers. They're on both the bid and the ask. They are buying and selling millions of times per day. They are like, when you get into a position, that's they're not taking the other side of your trade like a lot of people think. They're already there. They're already there. They're operating on the spread. So the spread is what they make money from. This right here, the spread. So they have orders on both the buy and the sell side of the market. They do not care which way the market goes. Their job is to fill orders, because every time they fill orders, they get paid. They make money. They do not manipulate the market. Smart money concepts. I mean, the market is looking for liquidity. You can devise profitable strategies around trying to target liquidity, like taking profits into liquidity or getting filled on the backside of liquidity. Sure. But market makers are not moving price. They're not like out there looking at your orders and then running your stops. That is not what they are doing. They are just feeding orders to the market and then offsetting those trades via futures or options. And they're not doing it anyways. It's a computer software program that's running in the background. Like the whole Jane Street was selling the market every day at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever. Like maybe a small wing of Jane Street's directionally biased traders were, but not their market makers. Their market makers are literally making money on the spread. They have deals with all of these exchanges, and yeah, I mean that's how FTX made all. That's how the guy that ran FTX made all of his money, by looking or operating on a spread. He bought Bitcoin from one exchange, sold it to another exchange for more, and he just did that over and over and over again and made all his money. Doesn't care which direction it goes. He didn't care if Bitcoin was going higher or lower. He just was buying it here, selling it there, across the spread. That's what tightens the spread up too. So on a market that has a super wide spread, that literally means there's not much liquidity providing happening in that market. It's a thin liquidity market. So you got to be careful. Those markets you can get stuck in, literally. You might not find someone on the other side of your trade. Good trade on silver. Thank you very much. Did you ever tell your friends you made good money on Farcoin today? No. What? Wait, what? I don't have any friends. I pretty much, yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. I told you guys, I tell, the Discord and whatnot. Yeah, they know. They were live with me yesterday morning, so they could have taken the trade with me. Similar to what I did today with Bitcoin. Get the trade situated where I'm interested in looking for the blah, blah, blah. Read that one already. They always have 3 drives up for them, basically any time frame, or 3 drives down. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in 3 drive patterns, or at least what they can be insinuating. It could be insinuating failure. Yeah. Failure to continue the trend. It's also a 3 drive pattern is very, very similar to like what a Wyckoff distribution would be, or a Wyckoff accumulation. Very similar. And then afternoon, curious for your thoughts. Okay, let me just make sure that I'm not missing anything important. Yeah, futures have, yeah. When you miss the boat for spot/shares, nothing wrong with being patient and fixed income until the opportunity arrives. I agree. Being patient is going to save you a lot of money in the long run. Don't own Hood, but want to start buying for a long-term position, hoping it tests the 50 to buy. Could do that. That's probably what I would wait on for as well. Sailor's buying habits are weird. He never seems to buy lows. Yeah, because he honestly believes that Bitcoin's going to be way more expensive in the future. Yep. You're going to find that most of your billionaire guys out there, they're operating with such big chunks of capital. They're not looking for anything near term. So when they decide on, I want to own something, the price really doesn't matter. For us, we're trying to be in the market at the right times, at specific swings and stuff. So we will pay attention to lows. If I was a billionaire, I would also be paying attention to lows. It doesn't make sense to me either, but he's long term good. I mean, he has been good since he's been buying. This is the first time that he's even really been massively in the red this year. Other than that, they have made billions of dollars buying Bitcoin highs. And I mean, the pattern has been the same since Bitcoin's been trading live. Wherever you buy, if you just hold it for 4 years, you're in the money in 4 years. It doesn't matter where you buy. So he saw that, and yeah, he doesn't care about buying highs. The buys are based on the MNAV against Bitcoin. There you go. He prioritizes the premium offset. Yep. Yeah. Credit rules the world. Yep. And he generated a beautiful mechanism to make money. He definitely did. UFC's good afternoon. He's curious for your thoughts on BAMLHOA2H. I don't even know what that is. I will type it in and see what it is, but it's clearly not something I've ever traded. I don't trade those markets. Credit. I really don't care about that. Those are more your banks and whatnot. That's where they operate. Let me try this. BAMLH. I don't know if that's an O or a 0. I can't tell. I'll do 0 first, and then I'll go back to O. It could be an O because it's in between H and A. 2HYB. So this thing here, yeah, I don't even see a price. Yeah, it doesn't even give me candles or anything. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this. I don't mess around with these kind of products. I have watch lists. Like, I have some of these things. I know, like, these things aren't doing good, right? Anything HYG looks like crap. Junk looks like crap. IE eyes come off pretty bad. There's a corporate bond ETF doesn't look good. So I have a lot of these things. I don't mess with them. IEF, AGG. A lot of these things are going to be in and around credit, bonds, cash, treasuries, all that kind of stuff. I don't mess with it. I have traded bonds, like the 2-year, 5-year, 10-year. I've traded these because these, they can operate very similarly. So, like, for instance, the fact that you're seeing a big spike here doesn't seem like that's what we should be seeing, because the Fed they haven't in a long time cut interest rates, right? So generally speaking, if you kind of have an idea what the Fed is planning to do, you can take trades on these more near-term treasuries or bonds. This is the yield, so you would take the opposite trade on the bond market, which would be the futures. 2-year would be ZT, right? 2-year T-note futures. So generally speaking, you want to be whatever the Fed's doing. But the caveat is, if you pulled up the Fed funds rate, the caveat is obviously there is near-term volatility. So you want to do the opposite of what this is doing. So if I get off this chart and pull up the yield instead, it'll be similar to the Fed, right? So the Fed is clearly cutting here. They're taking their sweet effing time about it. So it's made the 2-year bond market very choppy. So there's near-term volatilities. The Fed doesn't react to near-term volatility. So as long as inflation doesn't skyrocket, if inflation stays consistent with what it's doing, and we already know that Donald Trump has already picked a new Fed guy. He wants to get another Fed guy in there. It's going to lower rates quicker than Powell. Because let's be clear here, this should have happened much quicker than they allowed it to take place. I agree with Trump in that they were just way too slow. But in terms of near-term volatilities, if the Fed is going to continue to cut rates, then I would be a seller of the US 2-year. However, I wouldn't be a seller like on the lows or anything like that. This might give us an opportunity to be a bond trader again, because this is a giant spike, even though the Fed has done nothing and is planning on doing nothing. When we get closer to a Fed rate cut where you know a cut's coming, then you would be a seller on this, or i.e. you would be a buyer on the 2-year treasury, which is the bond futures. You would be a buyer on the lows or as close to the lows as possible. So this is just near-term volatility. And like I said, the Fed is not going to stop cutting interest rates just because this has spiked. They are aware that it has spiked. And if it does spike a lot more, then they will be like, well, wait a minute. We might have to actually hike. But most likely this will be faded, especially knowing that there is a Fed guy coming that will be aggressively or more aggressive in cutting interest rates. Now, with all that being said, this is the market disagreeing with the Fed. Even though it is near-term volatility, it is the market disagreeing on the very near term. So we can keep an eye on stuff like this, and we can definitely trade this stuff. It just takes a lot more margin than, trading, say, on a small account. Small accounts are not going to be able to trade the bond futures. You can trade bond future options on a small account, but you're not going to be able to trade bond futures on a small account. They take up a lot of margin. But yeah, if this continues to go up, then I would be looking to fade that eventually, especially the closer we get to a guy that is going to cut rates. But just knowing what the Fed is going to do, I mean, we've basically been a seller on this since 2024. It's just not much trend happening in that because of the Fed. The Fed sucks. But yeah, generally speaking, these things do stay right in line with each other, with that near-term volatility being okay. You just want to fade it. All right, but we'll see. We'll see what it does. If the market is pricing in that the Fed is wrong, the Fed will have to correct course. Don't know if they will. All right, yeah, got to roll. Enjoy, traders, and thanks, Heath. You are more than welcome. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up soon. I still haven't been stopped out of Bitcoin, so I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm not going to close the trade because Bitcoin is still more bullish than bearish. Just because I'm worried that as long as price is under this, it could roll over. That is a risk. And I don't love getting long where I got long this morning because it already went overbought. So it's a little bit late, maybe, but I'm not going to close it. If it gets stopped out, it'll get stopped out. But you never know. This thing may end up getting bullish. Who knows, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen. So I am going to hold this position when I get off the stream. I'm not going to close it. My stop is just under the low of day. So if you're wondering, like if you don't have a stop out or whatever, that's where it is. Literally, if it goes much lower than this wick, I'll be stopped. So very close to being stopped out here. If Bitcoin ultimately does start to rally, and it could, because the VWAP is right here, so it could start rallying. This could be good. We'll just have to let time play out and see. That's all we can do. My stop is mitigated. My order is mitigated, so I'm good there. We'll see what happens with it. But if it breaks down and starts to trend, I will close the Fartcoin long to keep the unrealized gains. It was a nice trade, and I want to make as much money on it as possible. So I do have a nice buffer for the rest of the week, thanks to taking profits on silver and Fartcoin yesterday. The account's up nicely. So as long as I, just mitigate what unrealized gains I have now and any new trades that I take in the future, all will be good. So yeah, good stuff. There is a short position on Aussie dollar that we just took this morning. I'm going to monitor this and see what it does. Same scenario. If you make a new high of day, then that short will be stopped out. And I'm okay with holding it, because I think if the dollar ultimately finds support today, that trade will make money. If it doesn't, it won't. Stop is setting out 71196, which is just above the high of day. And that's it. Silver, I'm going to hold. It's starting to look good. Oil might get stopped out. Still looks okay. It hasn't made a fresh low yet, but this price action looks better for the short still than it does for the long. Just this week's price action, you kind of have a very near-term channel being built here on oil. So until it gets back up to where my entry is up in here, if it breaks back up on the top side of this trend line, then I will be stopped out. I don't know that I would want to chase a fresh oil short here. But if it refuses to go above 95, 91, I wouldn't have any problem with that. Putting on a fresh short there. Downside target would be 93, 91 on oil. Could this be a bull flag? It absolutely could, which is why if it breaks out of this channel, I'll be stopped out. So I can't predict what it will do, but risk is mitigated. And that's all. That's all we can do. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Make sure you guys trade safe. Make sure you trade smart. And as always, happy trading, everybody.